I'll go ahead and drop my screen share and hand the mic over to Hazel. What are you going to be talking about, Hazel?
Hi, I'm going to be talking about iNaturalist.
Awesome.
So,
Sweet. Oh, and can you tell us, so why did you become an ambassador before we get rolling into the project?
well, I haven't. One sec.
No worries. I'm making you multitask.
I know.
There we go. All
So,
right. Oh, there we go.
there we go. Yeah. Um, so what was the question? Sorry.
This slide actually. Why did you become an ambassador? Who are you?
Yep. I was trying to move this. Okay. Yeah, so hi, my name's Hazel. My background is in ecology and plant biology. Got my degrees from MSU in Michigan. I've lived in Michigan my whole life. I'm an ambassador because I love citizen science and I also want to help use citizen science as a way to increase people's appreciation and understanding of science, as well as how it impacts our everyday life. I chose iNaturalist because it is my favorite citizen science project, um, as it connects people to nature and helps you grow a greater appreciation for all the living organisms around you. Yeah, so we're gonna jump right in and tell you what is iNaturalist, in case you're wondering. So iNaturalist is an online community that allows you to share observations to discuss, identify, and create research grade data for science and conservation. So I just took this screenshot earlier. It tells you like how many observations are in iNaturalist as of a couple minutes ago, how many species are included, the number of identifiers and observers, which is pretty cool.
Wow. It's a lot.
It's a lot. I want to say iNaturalist started in like 2008, I think. I remember that if I'm remembering correctly, but I feel like it's really exploded in popularity in like the last 5, maybe 10-ish years. So you use iNaturalist either through the iNaturalist app on Android or Apple, and then it's also a website. So of course you're gonna need to create an iNaturalist account using an email, username, password, and you have to be 13 or older to make an account. Pretty standard. And then once you've made your account, we want to make sure you link it to SciStarter. So you make sure you copy your iNaturalist username. So like in my example here, mine's Hazel J. Anderson. I copy that. I go into my SciStarter dashboard and make sure I add that to my affiliate integrations, which I'll show you in a minute. Yeah, and save that. So then it connects and it can keep track of every observation or thing you do in iNaturalist for SciStarter. So using iNaturalist, so to add an observation on the web, which I'm going to demonstrate in a couple minutes, you go to iNaturalist and sign in, and then there'll be a green upload button in the right-hand corner, and then you'll choose the photos you want to upload, and you can fill in the species name, the location of where you took that picture, made that observation, and then other details if you have them, and submit them. And it's totally okay if you don't know the species name. You can identify it to like, is it a plant? Is it a bird? Is it a mammal? Or you can just leave it blank and people will help you identify what it is. So similarly on the app, which is where I make most of my observations, um, of course you need to download the app onto your device and then sign in. And kind of similarly, there's a green plus sign or observation icon. There is a new iNaturalist Next app on iPhones that's pretty recent. So I don't have a ton of information of that on that one, but this is like the classic model. Um, so just a note in case you have the newer version. And then of course selecting your image, or you can even take a photo directly in the app, which is pretty helpful. And then filling in what you saw, making sure the location is there, and then other details if you want to. And iNaturalist has a really great help website resources. There's some video tutorials, which are super great. There's a forum. It seems there's a big community of people. If you have a question, there's lots of help available. So just quick, and then we'll get to the demonstration. A couple observation tips when you're going out. You want to make sure your photos are as clear and identifiable as possible. So oftentimes it's best to fill the frame with your subject. Don't be afraid to zoom in or crop. Like my butterfly example here, I know that you don't want to be like 2 feet away from an organism or animal, so cropping is great. Again, don't get close, but not too close. And if the photos are blurry, it's going to be really hard to identify, unfortunately. So just those can't really work. Also a lot of organisms, it's helpful to have multiple photos, especially like plants, trees, fungi, mushrooms. So you want to take a picture of like the top and the bottom, or like a tree, you want the leaves and the bark, and maybe if it's flowering. So including all those are super helpful. And then sometimes you'll have two organisms in one photo, and a iNaturalist, you can only name each photo as one species. So if you want to make a record of each species, just duplicate it or add that photo in twice and then note like this is the species. So like separating out the plant from this insect in this example. Um, Location is a really key part of your observations, but I like understandably, like if you don't want everyone on the internet to have the address to your backyard, that's totally understandable. Or if it's like a super rare species and you don't want people to know the precise location, there's also an option to obscure the location visibility. So I use that a lot when I'm making observations in my own backyard, or I'll just make it as like in Michigan, we have counties, so that's a pretty narrow but yet a little bit broader place. I naturally we don't want to photograph people's faces, especially kids. That's not helpful information. And then also you want to focus on wild organisms, so not like zoo animals or cultivated garden plants. You can input those in iNaturalist if you check the captive cultivated on your observation, meaning that that organism exists in the time and place it's observed because humans intended it to be there. And then, so like a wild organism is a bird on a tree in your yard or at your local park, whereas like a captive one would be a zebra in a zoo, or like a hydrangea shrub planted in your garden or outside of like an office building, as opposed to like a weed growing in the concrete of the parking lot. So now we're going to switch over and do the demonstration really fast. Oh, and I wanted to show the last couple of years, iNaturalist has been doing a year in review. So they have like in 2024, last year, they'll tell you like how many observations were made that year, how many species people found, how many identifications were contributed, and then how many people. And they'll even like if you input your username, you'll get your own personal one, which is pretty cool. So it kind of there's lots of data. This one's kind of cool. They have like the most commented and favorited observations. So
Oh,
there's some
Hazel, I
really
think you might need
cool.
to change the screen. It's still
Oh
on
shoot.
your slide. I was
Okay.
thinking, I'm like, yes, I remember all this, and then I realized you were probably pointing out things. So,
Okay. Sorry.
no worries.
I haven't used it. I haven't used
Yes.
Zoom in a minute. Yeah. So you're in review. There's lots of cool charts, data. This is iNaturalist as a whole in 2024, but you also get a link to your own if you input your username. And so you can kind of see all the cool things that people found. The red-tailed hawk is kind of fun.
That's
People
hilarious.
get to take some really good pictures. And then they also tell you like how many newly added species there were and there's just a lot of data. But so as we're talking about, so for SciStarter, when you go to your dashboard to add your iNaturalist username, you want to go to Info and Settings, and then scroll down here to the bottom, and then there's a spot for you to input your iNaturalist username so that your observations or identifications will count in SciStarter. So then on iNaturalist, we have these are my observations. But to add an observation, you're going to go over here to upload, and we're going to choose a file, and I happen to have one ready. So this is
A
the thing
duck.
I don't love. Yeah, the thing I don't love about the web version is it makes it really small, but I usually do this on my phone because it's a lot easier. But yes, that is a duck. I saw it this morning in the parking lot.
Adorable.
So for my species name, it will even load some suggestions. So you can even, oh, see, I don't like how this does it on here. But
The
anyway,
app is a
the
little
app
easier.
is so much easier for this. But if you click on it, it will tell you all about the species. There's a bunch of great pictures, which is really helpful when you're like trying to compare what you've seen to what you think it might be. So when you're pretty confident that's what it is, you just click that in there, and then you want to make sure you add your location. So because I don't add, so I'm gonna do that. I don't always have my location on my phone. I just remember that it's in Lansing, and I'll go in later and make that more precise, but for now that's fine. So then we have all that information. The date and time will automatically, because it's part of the picture, will automatically be added. So then I can submit my observation.
Do you have any recommendations for the notes area? I know some people who use it a lot and others who don't ever use it. I just curious where you land.
Yeah, I feel like I don't typically add many notes. I see a lot of people add um information about the plant, or maybe it, if it's an insect, it was found on this tree. Yeah, I feel like
Mhm.
it's kind of personal preference.
Yeah, like behavior and such. I know
Yeah.
there was a recent addition to add some phenology information too on some for some folks, so that might have been also why they added the phenology section. So instead of notes, it's also an actual.
Yeah. So I think if I like click view my observation, the phenology stuff, which isn't required. So like there's this annotation section.
Hmm.
So that kind of tells you like the life stage, which for plants would probably have a little bit more, but since this is a bird, there's
Right.
not going to be a ton.
Oh,
I haven't I haven't really ever done a ton with that, but if you, I mean, I'm sure that's helpful information to have. But this is like a good starting spot of just uploading a photo and making sure the location's there. Um, let's see, what else do we have? So, if you want to help identify observations that other people have made, my suggestion is to start in a location. So this is the identification page on the website. Um, so you can search by species or place. So starting out with a place you're pretty familiar with is always a good bet, especially if you're not an expert naturalist. Um, so every observation on iNaturalist starts out as casual. So that's just like one person has made an identification. And for it to be research grade data, it has to be at least two people agree on an identification. So for example, these, so there's a quality grade filter here, and it will show you that it's casual, needs ID, or research grade. So identification is most helpful in the needs ID. Um, and then you can filter the ones that need ID out by all these different things. There's these categories, so I clicked birds because that's a pretty easy place to start. And like, so for this one, like this is a blue jay, although it looks like somebody already suggested that it's a blue jay.
There has
But
to
you
be at
can,
least three or
oh,
to
is
get,
it three?
yeah,
Okay,
well, actually, it depends on the people who are suggesting the IDs too, because if they're not
right.
suggesting
That's
it,
true.
they'll wait a couple more times. Quality of data
Yeah.
is a lot for iNaturalist.
Yeah. I I know like the user end. I don't know a ton about like the back end always. Um, but yeah, so this one is obviously a blue jay. So you can just click agree
Nice.
and then yeah, that should eventually it shows up that I've reviewed it. Um, yeah, so you can see what other people have observed and kind of where they observed it. So this person did a nice job taking lots of pictures of all angles of the goose,
My gosh.
which
Very,
is pretty fun. I've been seeing a lot of geese out lately, so
is it the
they're
season for
always
geese? I assume it probably is.
yeah.
Yeah,
So there's yeah, I think this is the same person. But yeah, there's a lot of you got the geese standing on the log, which is always super fun.
I'm impressed that you know your birds. I feel like that would be my one of my least likely things to click on just because I'd be worried I would not know the right species names to help identify.
Well, I'm picking birds I know.
Ah, yeah, that's
Um,
okay.
like I'm not going to even try to identify the swallows.
Oh, swallow.
And
And when they're blurry too. I mean, some people still can still be able to identify things when they're blurry, but it's definitely harder.
yeah. Well, I took a picture of a bird like on my bird feeder and
Mhm.
it's kind of blurry. But I could see it with my own eyes, so I know that's what it was. Which I don't know if that's probably not the best thing to do always. Like this one, yeah, it's a woodpecker, but it is kind of hard to tell like what type of woodpecker it is because there are multiple types. So
And it looks like
I'm
they were
looking,
already not super sure. I mean, well,
yeah,
Bryobates woodpeckers, so that was more vague.
yeah,
Some were pretty.
because I know, oh, that's fun. There's a video. Um, because there are these two types of woodpeckers that are very similar.
Mm. Oh my gosh, yeah.
That
How do you tell them apart? They look
I
exactly the same.
I think there's something about the beak is a
Oh.
little bit longer in one, if I remember
Oh.
correctly.
Okay. Huh. Yeah,
I
that's
know in the app you can like compare what you've seen, which is kind of what this is doing, but um
huh.
yeah, I'm sure there's probably information about what the difference is between the two. Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, let's see. There's also you can look at the ones that are just completely unknown,
Mhm.
which this looks like it's um
And those
not a
goats.
possum.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely not a possum.
it's definitely
Oh,
captive or
captive mark.
cultivated.
It's good they marked that.
Well, I'm marking it.
Oh, did you? Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's not great. Okay.
which I'm pretty sure this could be the same thing because it's at a garden. The easy thing is when it's at
Mm.
the gardens.
Yep. Yeah. People don't always use it correctly. So being able to be one of the identifiers is a really big deal and being able to mark things. Uh,
Yeah.
especially for anyone who's getting involved in iNaturalist in the very near future and then joining the City Nature Challenge at the end of the month.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be, since I help the Phoenix City Nature Challenge, but I'm out in DC, so I'm one of the identifiers for Phoenix. So I just go online to make sure people aren't putting up bad pictures that are just going to hurt our chances of doing well in the City Nature Challenge. So that's, if you want
Yeah.
that as your goal, that is an option.
Yes. Yeah, I know people who spend like, or I don't know, they just make a ton of identifications. And especially if you're like a expert in a certain species, it's really easy for you to go through and like pick out which ones are and aren't. Um, I haven't really dipped my toes quite in that. Um, as
Yeah.
you can see, some of these are mine that I need to go back and identify.
Well, let's see. I mean, that's a really interesting looking plant. Do you think it'll give you a good recommendation?
It didn't on my phone. They're like tree buds, so it's kind of
Um,
they're always tricky.
hmm
And like some of these, it's not that it's like blurry.
hmm
It's just that like they're in different stages of like unfurling, so they
Right.
look a little funny. And
They're cool looking. They're cool.
the great thing about me knowing that it's mine is I can go back to those trees and once they're like a little bit large, bigger, or have unfurled a little bit and see more leaves, I could go back and figure out which tree it is and go back and add that later too.
I know for during the City Nature Challenge, the advice is to if you instead of putting nothing, which I mean a lot of people still do, and that is an option if you really have no
Yeah.
idea. But some folks will just put like plant. And so if
Yeah.
you, like, narrow it down enough, it allows it to be like folks who look specifically as, oh, I'm really good at identifying certain family
Yeah.
of things they can find, or in kingdoms, I guess, in this case, they can go through and
Right.
start identifying a lot quicker too. So, yeah, you can, just like that, Kingdom Planting.
Yep.
Yeah, but I don't know how, outside of the City Nature Challenge, I'm not sure if that's the advice that's always
I
given.
feel like that is something I've heard before
Oh, yeah,
because
okay.
I feel like especially for these filters, like it filters by the kingdoms. So if you like, I want to identify plants, it's
Mm,
gonna like it will show up in there instead of just in unknown land.
unknown land. Man,
Just
that's such a cool looking branch, though. Too bad it's like,
yeah, I'm recent fascination with tree buds because they're very cool. Um, if I go back and get off identify for a minute.
so many
Um,
observations. You beat me, that's for sure. I have like,
I was trying. Oh, I wonder if it tells me. I think it does. See, I joined in 2020. I was trying to remember when I joined. Which is pretty cool.
what
Um,
year was it?
it was 2020.
Oh, nice.
I think one of my undergraduate classes, like, it was part of our class, which was cool.
That's awesome. Good job, teacher,
Yeah.
professor, whatever they're called.
Like, the maples are super fun looking
Ooh.
because they look very flowery if it'll load. Yeah.
Oh yeah, look at that. That's a maple?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if I've seen maples look like that before. That's crazy.
Now you're making me second guess whether it's a
No,
maple or
I'm very bad at identifying plants
not.
specifically.
Okay.
My plant knowledge is basically just Phoenix, Arizona. Sonoran Desert, I got it. Anywhere else, not
That's
so
true.
much.
This is very much the opposite of desert.
Oh yeah. Yeah, my
I
knowledge of non-desert plants is very minimal.
yeah, I feel like if you put me in a desert, I'd be like, I don't know, that's a cactus. That's all I got.
Everything's a cactus. Everything's
Yeah.
everything.
These are also fun ones, which they haven't sprouted yet, but they're very distinctive little leaves. This is a spring ephemeral, so it's only here for a limited time. And so I've been making observations in my backyard for a couple of years now. So it's kind of cool to go back and see like, oh, that's here again. Like I recognize some of the plants now after
Oh,
you
nice.
do it for so long. Yeah. And birds are always
Oh, those are good bird pictures. Nice,
very
not boring.
photogenic.
Yeah.
And
Sweet.
then you can see that there was a stretch of mantis that visited,
Wow.
like a lot of mantis.
Seriously, dang.
Yeah,
Oh,
so it's
that's so fun.
always fun. And I like keeping track of, what I've seen, you know, getting to like the milestone. I'm gonna zoom up for a minute. Like how many species Like, so
Mhm. That is a lot. That's really impressive. Oh, this is, oh yeah, no,
this
it's
is
the world
me.
that it's used
Yeah.
specifically. Yeah,
And
that's,
it will tell you how many times you've like seen certain things, which is
oh,
really cool. So
that's
this
such a
is
cute.
what the, yeah, yellow trout lily looks like.
Ooh, that's very cool.
They're fun. Look
So
at
you could
this.
just hang out on iNaturalist and just look at all these pictures. Half the time I just want to look at all the data because it's just so fascinating what people have been able to find.
Yeah.
And real discoveries too. I don't know if you stay in touch with all the news about iNaturalist, but like
Mm-hmm.
we recently found a the woolly something, woolly devil. I think it's really called the woolly devil. It's WOOLLY or no,
Yeah.
one L. And it's a very tiny plant related to the sunflower, but doesn't look like it at all. That's new to science. We'd never discovered it, and it was recently named for that reason. And then same thing with the you find organisms like the toilet weasel. The Colombian weasel that was discovered in a bathroom and turned out to be a previously thought of to be extinct species. So big deal things come out of iNaturalist, which is great.
Yeah. I feel like I was listening to something about iNaturalist the other, there's a like old podcast episode. And yeah, you especially find that in like some of the areas that we don't know as much about some of the species. So like um typically in like the Amazon, a lot of South America and like Africa, a lot of those places that we don't understand as well. Um, but like, someone could take a picture of something that they pass by every day and, oh, by the way, this is a species we thought was dead.
Yeah,
Like it's
go
it's very
figure.
cool.
Totally. On your next vacation, anyone who's going on vacation somewhere that's a very different country, that's not a westernized country, especially because we have a way more data from Western countries for in
Yeah.
iNaturalist than others, and so it would be great, a great activity, nature monitoring while abroad. It's a vacation, some vacation sits high.
Yeah.
All right,
I
we're right at the 30-minute mark, so
Oh,
I apologize for
perfect.
interrupting you. I just wanted to check, do you
No.
want to give any final words of wisdom for anyone who is watching this or will watch this in the recording to learn about iNaturalist?
No. Just check it
No.
out. I mean, yeah, I love it. It's super fun. Talking about vacations, when like I go out of state, I will take pictures of like cool things and, learn more about those species and add them to my list.
Yeah,
But
what a way to remember a vacation.
yeah, super fun.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much, Hazel. I'm gonna force stop your share. Thank you so much for doing that for the last 30 minutes. I learned a bunch. I'm really excited to try to compete against your 2,000 observations with my, I'm not even gonna share my number. It's really sad in comparison. But I'm gonna aim to make it higher. So that's the goal.